FTR Radio. It's pretty, it's loud, it's in your face, like Meghan McCain, without all the dumb.
Wow!
FTR Radio is from the right radio, online at ftrradio.com.
I am here with Mr. Scot Faulkner, Executive Director of the Dreyfuss Initiative. We had a chance to sit down at CPAC for a few minutes and talk, but that just wasn't enough time, was it?
No, it was a very busy day.
It was. Now, for people who are maybe not familiar with the Dreyfuss Initiative, can you break it down for them as far as what it is, where you are currently, and where they can find you?
Sure. First of all, we are on the internet at www.dreyfussinitiative.org. And what it is its primary mission is to revive, elevate, and enhance the teaching of civics in the U.S. And within that, we're looking at developing content, embracing existing content, because there's a lot of good courses out there and good teachers. But what we're finding is that most of America does not require civics anymore. And what is being taught is very fragmentary. So we are losing our collective identity and our collective frame of reference as to what we are as Americans.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say most Americans aren't being taught civics, because I can tell you that the younger generations, they hear the word civic and they think it's a Honda car. I mean,
yes.
The Dreyfuss Initiative is calling for a very dramatic change in culture. I mean, looking at your website, it calls for everything from volunteering time to mastering the English language, even active education. I mean, how do you all hope to reach America's youth and turn that cultural ship around?
I think several things. One, we want to reframe civics as the mastering the exercise of practical political power. That civics as a term is like eat your broccoli. And we definitely want to make civics more relevant by making people understand that if you don't understand what's going on in our society, then you're going to have very little opportunity to impact it, and our society as a whole may be at risk, as far as if everyone forgets the rules of the game, then game over. In terms of trying to make civics, so to speak, cool again, it's really about not only looking at stressing the practical political power and the practical aspects, but also how do we approach the pop culture? I mean, again, many of us who were baby boomers remember seeing a lot of the Frank Capra movies and other movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s that were on TV, and they were all about celebrating America, talking about our history, talking about Washington in positive ways. Nowadays, very few films even address those issues, and when they do, they tend to be very nuanced. So people are very cynical about their politics. They're very detached. I mean, right now, there's been several surveys that show only 3% of Americans even get actively involved in their communities. And this means going to public hearings, working for a candidate, even writing a letter to the editor. So when you have a nation of 310 million people and only 3% are actively engaged as a true citizen of this country, we've got some problems.
Wow. Well, I think that it's a really ambitious project. I mean, if you guys
Absolutely.
if you guys go to the website, and again, it's the dreyfussinitiative.org, there's a plan for almost a field trip railroad, I guess.
Right.
I mean, can you explain a little bit about
we are,
that?
Sure. Well, first of all, the problem with people forgetting who we are as a country and the deterioration and unraveling of our civic curriculum was decades in the making. And so no one action, no one school year is going to turn that around. So we're looking at a very holistic, very integrated process of approaching it culturally as well as curriculum-wise and also learning aids. There are a number of field trips already in existence. Probably the most elaborate one is the Congressional Youth Leadership Foundation, where about 48,000 young people a year come to Washington and fan out over 4 days to Philadelphia, to Harpers Ferry, which is where I live, to Manassas and to Gettysburg, as well as to DC, to understand certain pivotal moments in American history. There's also a number of Close-Up Foundation brings a lot of young people into Washington. So what we're looking at is we have an opportunity to rehabilitate Robert F. Kennedy's funeral train, which is currently in ownership of a friend of ours in the Philadelphia area, and looking at adding to these other trips of basically linking a rail trip from Philadelphia to Gettysburg along the Amtrak line, and to show people two major pivotal moments in our history. One was the first revolution, which is the Constitutional Convention of 1787, and the other, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, which really redefined America from 1863 onward. And so it's just one other way to try to bring young people together. Now, not every young person is going to be able to get on that train, and that's still probably another year or two away because the train needs rehabilitation. But it's another piece of awareness building and incentive, maybe for various contest winners of essays and other issues relating to American civic culture. And then beyond that, it's really about creating learning modules, learning aids that can be used by every classroom in this country, whether that be a public classroom, a charter school, a parochial school, a private school, or a homeschool.
Well, I think it's wonderful that you're taking such a diverse approach to implementing this curriculum, whether they're games or contests or I believe we talked about movies and books
Yes.
and various things. What is the team like behind this project to bring all of these ideas into reality?
It's a combination. First, we have an outstanding board of trustees, including some of the leading scholars in America. Harold Holzer, who's written like 22 books on Lincoln and is one of the deputies at the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art, is just one example of the caliber of people we have on our team. We have numerous partners that we're in the process of basically finalizing. I mean, we've to back up for a moment, for the last 8 years, the main focus of the initiative has really been what I call Paul Revere number, that Richard Dreyfuss, who's the founder and president of our initiative, has been out there speaking to now about 170,000 people in live audiences, raising the awareness that civics in some states is even an elective now. It's not even a requirement anymore. There's only like 5 states that even test young people on civics as part of high school graduation. So we're in the process of really losing a whole generation about who do not understand how to be engaged, effective citizens. And so that consciousness raising and kind of a clarion call has really been the first phase. That phase is still there. We will always be building awareness, but starting last fall, we realized that the curriculum, the programmatic needs, the incentives need to be built. And so we began reaching out to various partners. We've already forged alliances with groups as diverse as AARP and American Bar Association, and everything from the Common Cause on one side of the political spectrum to the Intercollegiate Scholastic Institute and Heritage Foundation and others on the conservative side. Because again, this is a foundational challenge, regardless of where you fit on the political spectrum. If the next generation doesn't understand how to be an American, game over. So those partnerships are in development right now. We're actually hoping to have a major series of detailed announcements around May 4th, which is actually the anniversary of Horace Mann. That's the 215th anniversary of his birth. And we at the initiative feel that Horace Mann, who, when he was superintendent of Massachusetts in the early 1800s, articulated the need for an educating younger generations to prepare them to be citizens of this country. And so we gain a lot of our inspiration from his groundbreaking approach. In fact, Richard talks about him being the last of the founding fathers because the education component is a vital part of maintaining our democracy.
Well, and that brings up a great point about Mr. Richard Dreyfuss, which we will get into after this quick break.